Grief is an unholy beast. A spider, in fact. Its web weaved around like interlocking pikes to form contraption, inescapable. Dewdrops from morning glory would slide up and down on the threads to gloss every strung fibre. With new life comes new death. The spider would unceremoniously fang its way through every barrier. Its bite would leave you paralyzed, immovable and unflinching to seek a torment. There was no taunt but a safety measure the beast would employ, never to let its friend run away. Its silken grasp clung on to you tenaciously, a pawn in its web, forced to watch the looming threat creep closer and closer. Its 8 legs would cackle with the creak of their spindly hinges. Never would a creature see their past so intensely, for this moment was a slow little death. The shadow was large and engulfed all vision. She was right there, staring the captured victim down, intent not on what they barred, but what they held. The wind may foolishly try to release the web's grip, but in a frivolous attempt that blew and threw them about in a tangled mess, they would find themselves lost as their last memory was this unholy beast. Its face, hairy and bristled with eyes beady but bald, 2 fangs jutting as knives ready to inject its opiate. The web weaved like arms ready to loosen themselves around you as a new state was achieved. Around and around the spider would spin you, watching only as you tried to thrash about. Prolonged was this exercise, you would keep going, around and around, becoming more drowned by its silk. It was never to be soft like lustrous sheen, but coarse and enduring to keep you enthralled in what can no longer be seen as last light disappeared, with the sky above and the ground below. The swing of the web plunged up and down as the weight tried to drag its way down. This spider was no mite. Its legs, however, gangly, saw a core more beastly that could constrict and stretch like a flower, a death blossom that hid away from prying eyes only until her home invaded. 8 legs were counted, each one holding the spider aloft as it scuttled about, ready to return to you alone and trapped in a newly made cocoon. It stung like seizing bites that prickled and prickled like desert cactus. The thorns sunk in to state a claim of their own. It would surge like a vitriolic river that coursed and travelled with spears laid out side to side. A bed of ivy as dry as leaflets 3 would let be. Parasitic was the urge, an unavoidable nuisance that crawled beneath the skin. To climb over new rungs of a cage, the creature's ribs were inflamed with the soft ember that trickled carefully, in moments dear and prolonging. It thrived, now to sear its surface in red-veined delight. It never cackled. It would do nothing more than what it did. The thorns had sunk through gashed wounds to appear rash-like, bulbous and swollen all over the body. No amount of raucous displeasure could be heard in mean triumph. The spiteful agony that raged on in tempest, irritation, crimson red, cerise to this mean torture, a toiled mind so annoyed in discomfort. With this paralytic poison nothing could be felt, the thought of a prior life and life unto a ghost of its mind. Given the force, it would tumble with a landslide small in scale. Tumbling around with scars of 2 fangs, no pain was felt with this violence. The world spun around him as a cloak, no longer was his transparency apparent. The exterior of a rocky heart was to prove to be tough in order to maintain its own composure. Seeing blankness and death was what the victim felt as the cocoon blackened everything around. In ribbons of silk, promises were held loose and thin as they wrapped all around. A mystery of the wrong kind that was to be discovered in the rocks that troubled themselves with their reality. Hurt many times being tossed around and heaved only to respond as they can. The silence of the outlook locked away from strength. The cocoon was looser than boulders of this ilk, but had a shell just as secure. No pain, no regret was felt, for the numbness of this poison. Many other cocoons held prominence beyond this one. The beast would walk over them without care, only to practice its choral prayer on one. To have been given more time, one additional action to swerve from this contempt. The injustice of this fate to try and fly sweetly only to be found within this net. However blessed or however burned, the victim only clung onto the enriched. To fill a void, drained by sunken teeth, and extinguish their pain. No other creature alive now may understand the starved palate. So what problem do they not pose under the wing of a creature flying so high? The mordant words mumbled behind the razor-edged cloak cut stone into gravel, to then be crushed underfoot. Acrimonious seduction of the spider's call to entangle naive mind. The insides have ceased their burning, but a degree of scarring only to spare out a broken mouth as empty as the carcass. A taste not saccharine, but a bitterness to be devoured by the world. As clear vision blurred all sense of the world, fell with dusk as even the light of the stars were removed. The severity of the prolonging fading light was a hindrance to the mean virus that clots all methods of functioning for the writhing cast. The heart grew cold with stone, to have lost connection with the mind. No information with no just path, the dependence of wings to fly about and rain down plumes of the sky. The great the tall trees that stand vigilant and sing amongst the clouds, can find here the cocoon could not reach out, a sliver of time to grow atop each new second. The hushed words could not elongate their tick, to grow patient and wait for Sharon's keen gaze. The river between worlds stretched. No longer could the victim manifest true intimacy when the heart beat slow and drudgery. The ferryman's boat glowed with ceaselessly fluttering souls as moths to this web. With no feeling of energy, no legs were kicked or heads raised in unsuccessful pursuit. The softest of the goodbyes began its culmination, but no other could hear it when it said so disdainfully, "A beautiful immortality closed off from kindly eyes. Detachment's next passenger, onward until a journey of separation. Now in hell, what further flames are fanned? It is but inescapable to clear away the maquettes of former visitors." The beast welcomed them in Cerberus's absence. Angular in appearance and abhorrently freakish, the spider was both frail and imposing, a memory to last eons, yet experienced so readily. Here in the fire nothing can be lost, will only ever burn to form wisps of smoke and ash that will swim around in the air. No tears to be felt in smog, if so, it would only sear away its flesh even more. The feelings that caked on like soot was dark to bear as it rose out from the water below in strings of strange currents that entranced out all else. To peer into Lethe and remember naught else but what was lost in flames. No tears to be felt, but they were demanded upon so fiercely. For months on end, in repeat, the victim would see delusion in what they could do, and swim in these vengeful seas and escape persecution. In a valley of headstones, no death here was unique. It is in a sea of those grieving that souls catch a light. The preoccupation of this loss was a fire fanned by the hands of the monster. Gripped around charred eyes, the sand blew away like dust. The cocoon was disguised all along to shy away from what the spider presented. This web entangled many fools willing to burn away in writhing. Arachne the weaver held a daughter of her image, so magnificent in appearance yet so afflicted with their curse. In her pain, tears of happiness and tears of sadness rolled into every tempting bite. She weaved around emotions not demise, as the cast of every soul captured, lay in stance not leak out any of their tears. To protect against whatever fight is needed, in only existing the collection of silken shells hung about, strung above the ground below in scraggly threads of their woeful fates, all of them demand to see the starlight of the dusk throw blocked by her faculty. She has replaced every smile with her own ways. One cocoon may fall, but the others would only grow envious. It was important they remained here, to feel their own wayward veins. After an additional few months, what's left to salvage may be redeemed, but at this time, their gentleness will fold. The web has to be tight enough. If not, all apathy is then lost. As she scuttles around her web, glimpses of its own remnants permeate all thought. The trauma of her torture was an everlastingly terrible dream. In the wake of death, an angel with clipped wings will heal every rip. They will unlock and escape from this looming rout and cover all burnt-up scars. How many bodies will tolerate the weight? The innate desire to collapse the shaking bones in a world of vivid technicolor divulges into dreary grey. The deafness of this vibration rings in both fleshy and glass eyes. Their foreheads blind and their ears arthritic to the breaking of this wholesome heart. an undying faith of preconceived ideas. What more is there to this pain? The aftertaste of this forbidden fruit rises up like spittle in its pile of decay. It flashes reminders of original sin in the questioning of every living thing's place. It would swarm flesh, but leave minds jagged. The bloody shades of clotted insides and the searing of burnt feathers, to search and search throughout this mystery, a home, or perhaps a scapegoat. With every trauma faced, the monster feeds itself upon gluttony. For every dream turned to nightmare, this trauma will hold prominence. Claw away in defense if you wish, but fear in this addiction only adds to her list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For this spider hobbles with one missing leg, a foundation missed for her to maneuver herself around the web efficiently. Her own demise was the final foundation of her being. The unholy beast sanctifies only what it cannot have. Its own sentience troubles those willing to tune themselves in past turmoil. In creeping over every turn in this web, the spider scurries towards open passages. The quandary of this plight haunts every creature as they leap onto the sticky hold of spider webs. A situation of unfurling constraints laid out to welcome in a new departure. They would fall and fall into those open areas, unknowing of the spider's hostility. With great zeal this beast will entertain, to rip apart tormented minds and use a body as a drain. No foreign assaults will this tire, as the cocoons are a constant reminder. Strung up and dulled like powder or gifts, bequeathed to Arachne reputed glory. The woven harmony sings a macabre. The web has unfurled with immediate danger, for the creature has let it in.